at it. Okay, give me a pair of gloves, I'll go fight. So I started off in points fighting, and then quickly realised that light contact was more my personality. So the difference between light and points is points fighting, they stop and start every time a score is acknowledged, whereas with light contact. And that first year was a really kind of important year for me because it was my first time on the Irish team, but it was also the year that my mother died. So my mom died in July, and then come November I was fighting for Ireland. Where was I? I think it was Macedonia. So I suppose I channeled a lot of my grief into that competition. In 2014, then my dad actually died in the May, and I was competing in the World Championships that year in Turkey, and it's a really kind of a surreal experience that I suppose I dealt with both my parents dying through my kickboxing. So I'm very, very passionate about how kickboxing helped me be the person that I am today. And then the following night, I think it was the second night, I woke up and I couldn't breathe. I literally was like caught for breath, and I pressed the emergency button again, and they took me seriously that time, and they said, hold your baby, we need to go fast. And they rushed me in the bed all the way down to the high dependency unit, and over the next couple of days they did a barrage of tests on me. They were convinced I had a clot somewhere, which I didn't. But when my son was born, I got really, really sick. So I was inside in the hospital and I was complaining about being sick. I had a pretty traumatic birth with him. I got really sick, and I kept calling the doctors and saying I'm not feeling well, and I kept saying in my head, I'm a black belt, like I'm a black belt kickboxer, why can't I cope? And the girl next to me kept on saying, no, I don't need medication, I'm okay, I'm fine. And I kept buzzing saying I need. Very lucky. And I remember one of the heads came from the hospital one day and said, you're right now, you're the sickest person in the hospital. And I laughed, and she said, why are you laughing? I said, because I feel fine. And she said, you're like, we nearly lost you. And when my second son was born, then I started kind of delving into it a little bit more. And in this room here, actually in my home gym, I started a home session for 3 of my friends for us all to do postnatal fitness.
Sometimes we gotta dig deep and find our passion, find what works for us. Sometimes it's not all about winning, but certainly it's about that experience. For us, it's all about winning that experience. On this week's show, I get the opportunity to talk to Orla O'Brien Clancy. Orla set up Fighting Fit Mamas to help women to return back to exercise postpartum. She has always had a passion for sport and exercise and competed over the last 9 years both in light and full contact kickboxing. Orla has had to dig deep to get through some of the traumas that she has experienced in her life, and because of her sport and her background, it has really helped her to triumph. This is a really, really powerful interview. I know that you're going to really love this one. So hi and welcome to Always Winning the Experience podcast. I'm your host Jason Kenny, and this week we're with Orla O'Brien Clancy. I always mix that one up. It's a double barrel name. Orla, I knew Orla going back, geez, it must be gone 10 years now, and we did the boxing, and Orla was super, super competitive. She was traveling internationally with the kickboxing, doing light and full contact. Orla is going to give you some serious insights into all of this anyway. But since then, Orla has started a new business of our own, and it's very intriguing, and I'm sure you're really going to enjoy this one. So Orla, give us a spiel on yourself and how this all happened.
Okay, so I suppose my name is Orla O'Brien Clancy. The double barrel name is because I'm married. I always call myself Orla, aka Fighting Fit Mama, and I'll tell you a little bit about my business in a second. But I started my kickboxing career a little over 20 years ago. Started for fitness. I just wanted to get fit, and I liked the idea of martial arts. I was doing basketball at the time as well. I suppose I quickly developed a hunger for competing. I went to my first competition as an audience. I just wanted to go watch, and I went, is that it? Okay, give me a pair of gloves, I'll go fight. So I started off in points fighting, and then quickly realised that light contact was more my personality. So the difference between light and points is Points fighting, they stop and start every time a score is acknowledged, whereas with light contact, it's a rolling clock for 2 minutes. And I really, really loved the light contact. And in 2006, I got a position on the Irish light contact national team with Kickboxing Ireland. And that first year was a really kind of important year for me, because it was my first time on the Irish team, but it was also the year that my mother died. So my mom died in July, and then come November, I was fighting for Ireland. Where was I? I think it was Macedonia.
Wow.
So I suppose I channeled a lot of my grief into that competition, and when I got onto the mat, I completely froze. It was my first time fighting at that level. I completely froze. I just didn't know where I was or what I could or couldn't do. But it was a significant year for me, and I really, really pushed hard. And then I suppose I can't remember. Was it 10 years ago that I met you, and we did the boxing, the white collar boxing, and I absolutely loved that experience. And myself and Pat, you'd know Pat as well. Myself and Pat, my husband, talk fondly about the times we used to go up to the Glen Boxing Club and do our boxing training up there with yourself and Blue. And I really, really loved it. And what I got out of that, I wasn't doing full contact at the time, but when I got into the ring, I just felt like a different person. And I used to really, really love going up and fighting in the ring. I can't even explain how different it was than being on the mats. And after that experience made me want to fight in full contact. And I started my full contact career I call it, but my full contact stint in kickboxing quite late into my kickboxing journey. And I made my debut in the Irish national full contact team. I think it was 2011. It might have been the year after I met you. I had come second in the nationals at my fighting weight, and it was a split decision, and I fought against a really, really fantastic fighter, Lindsay Doyle. And it was, again, a fantastic experience up in Crumlin and Crumlin Boxing Club. And I came second, so I didn't get onto the team, but the weight below me, which was 4 kilos lighter at 52, was available, and I got a call from the national coach asking me if I would like to compete at that weight. So that was a massive weight drop for me. It doesn't sound like a lot, but 4 kilos for me at my weight, it was quite a lot to drop. So I had to work really hard to get to that lightweight, and I went and fought then in, I think it was 2012, in my first Europeans full contact. And then in 2012, the following year, 2013, the following year, my dad was diagnosed with terminal cancer.
Oh, wow.
So there's a bit of a journey in my kickboxing. My kickboxing journey involves both my parents, but I threw myself into kickboxing, and that year I was fighting in both light contact and full contact in the Europeans and worlds. And my dad had been diagnosed with cancer 3 weeks before the light contact championships, and I went and I fought and I obliterated my first competitor. I had told no one on the team that my dad was sick, and I just went in and I just let loose, and I could see the points clocking up, and I won the fight, and I came home with bronze that year. And then I didn't place in the full contact. I think it was about 3 weeks later, and my dad was significantly sicker. And again, I suppose I shouldn't have really been there, but I was there anyway. So in 2014, then my dad actually died in the May, and I was competing in the World Championships that year in Turkey, and
Wow.
It's a really kind of a surreal experience that I suppose I dealt with both my parents dying through my kickboxing. So I'm very, very passionate about how kickboxing helped me be the person that I am today. It's not just about the sport, it was about how I dealt with adversity, I suppose. But that year he died, and I went to my World Championships. There was a song that used to play in the radio all the time when I used to bring him to chemo. So I was the only sibling in Cork, so I used to bring my dad to chemo every 2 weeks. And the Lumineers' Hey Ho, or is it he used to say, play the Hi Ho song, Orla. And for the World Championships, my first fight, that song came on the radio as I walked in, and it wasn't like a walk-in song. The World Championships are very, very serious. The song came on, and I just decided in my head, I'm going to do this one for you, Dad. And I won that fight. I won my next fight, and I got a bronze in the world full contact championships that year.
Wow.
And I'm very, very proud of it, because it was a very tough thing for me to do. And I remember about 6 weeks before he died, bawling, crying up in Kilbarrack with the full contact coach, saying, I can't do this. My hand is sore. I had broken it in the previous May at a competition, and I was really hurting, kind of emotionally, I think. But I was afraid to nearly admit it. I was afraid to step down, because if I stepped down, I would crumble, right?
Yeah.
And I had known, I suppose, how I dealt with my mom's death. And he just said to me, look, commit to the next 6 weeks. Come up to Dublin. Come train with me every week, and I promise I'll get you ready. Are you going to commit to it? And his name is Jimmy Upton, and he is just the greatest coach, I think, in full contact, and he was such a great pad man with me as well. So I committed to it, and I got through it. And when I got to the World Championships then and won that bronze medal, it wasn't gold. I wasn't there to win gold. I was there to just survive, and I got a bronze medal as a result of it. And I'm extremely proud of that feat, I suppose.
Yeah, no, that's incredible. I mean, obviously, trauma to triumph there. It's incredible. I suppose obviously you poured your heart and soul. It was a way of kind of deviating a small bit from what was going on, and it was your way of kind of venting possibly and dealing with those emotions. But I can understand probably the psychology of going from the light to the full contact then as well. I suppose it's that sense of freedom. You're not holding back as much. So that's powerful. It's a powerful story. And one, I suppose, that you'll have for the rest of your days, and you'll pass on to your boys. But and are you practicing at the moment? Are you doing any kind of training or in regards to kickboxing or martial arts?
So yeah, I suppose I always wanted to have a family, obviously, and I kept on saying one more Europeans, one more World Championships. Then I had my black belt the following year after my dad died, and that was a significant milestone that I wanted to achieve. And I just decided that I would get it all out of my system before starting family. So I started my family quite late because of that. And I was ready to kind of hang up the gloves. And I now have two boys. I have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. And I do train. I haven't been kickboxing, obviously, with the whole lockdown experience right now, but I do train, and I teach a kids class. I don't do as much kickboxing as I'd like to. I do have, I suppose, hopes of competing someday again, but right now, I guess, with my Fighting Fit Mama efforts, it takes a lot of my free time. So yeah. I work full time as well. I have a day job in tech. So the Fighting Fit Mama business that I have is a sideline business, but it actually has become my passion in some way. So I felt that if I go back to doing kickboxing and competing the way that I'm used to, it will take all of my energy. It takes all of me, and I didn't want to, first of all, take from my kids because I waited so long to have them, and also because this sideline business, as small as it is something that I'm extremely passionate about. So I will compete and I will fight someday, but I'm in no rush, and I don't see age, but I'm in no rush to dedicate it all back to that again, because it was all or nothing. Can I just ask you there?
I suppose obviously with the kickboxing stuff, did you feel it was kind of a very male orientated environment, even from a training aspect?
You know what? I didn't, because particularly in Ireland, there is a huge contingency of really exceptionally good female fighters. Like even in my own weight section, I would be quite good friends with a lot of the girls that I was essentially competing against at nationals and stuff like that. But really good fighters, and there's a few of them now have moved into MMA, and a few of them have moved to karate, just for different reasons. But I definitely found that the female contingency at a national level, so for squad camps and stuff like that, was really great. In my own club back in the day, so when I was competing, there was a lot more females. Right now, at the moment, interestingly enough, there's not quite as many females in my club, which is something I suppose that I do struggle with a little bit. It's just nice to kind of have your own, a little bit of a balance. A balance is good, you know.
Yeah, I find that one of the major issues, even with myself and clients and stuff like that, and particularly to the girls, that a lot of trainers, a lot of nutritionists and stuff would treat them the very same as they treat the guys. And I mean, I know yourself with your own postpartum kind of fitness and things like that, with your own experiences. The bodies are quite different, and we don't realize that as starting off in life, and trainers, we treat everyone the same, and you're told to treat everyone equal. And I think it gets a little bit muddied along the way as to what's going on. And you kind of have a tendency to tell people push through stuff when there's a lot of other things going on and that we're not aware of. And for guys, we can just turn up and kind of keep training. For girls, it's a completely different kettle of fish altogether. I'm kind of anxious to kind of get stuck into this whole fight and fit mama thing, because I was always intrigued by it, and following you on Instagram and seeing your posts. I think it's a fascinating area. I think it's something that's 100% needed, and definitely something that's probably been overlooked over a long period of time. And I definitely think certainly starting to pioneer in it. I certainly, you're the only one I know that's kind of doing it that I've seen on Instagram. There's probably other people out there doing it, but I think it's fascinating, and it's a fascinating area. But I think you have a kind of a story behind how all this happened, and I suppose, was it your youngest you kind of got into difficulty, I suppose, was it, and you felt that kind of
my first.
Your first, okay, yeah. Well, look, you might tell us a small bit what happened, because
of course,
I know it's a kind of a special story,
Yeah. So I suppose when I first got pregnant, I'm an athlete, I'm fit, you know, I'm strong. I decided, you know, I'm going to just train through. I used to go kickboxing. I didn't want to break my routine. I didn't want to break any of the consistency. I wanted to make sure that I would be fit straight after the pregnancy, straight after the birth. I knew nothing. I had no clue about how my body was responding to pregnancy. You know, the whole mantra of listen to your body and just push through and you'll be grand and you're fitter than most people, you'll be fine. That was all ringing in my head, and you know, I wanted to be that fit pregnant person, and I was. I mean, I trained smartly. I didn't do anything reckless. Everything was about the baby, but none of it was about me. There was no information about let's say your pelvic floor or your abdominals. So your abdominals stretch when you get pregnant, and as you progress through your pregnancy. But when my son was born, I got really, really sick. So I was inside in the hospital and I was complaining about being sick. I had a pretty traumatic birth with him. I got really sick, and I kept calling the doctors and saying I'm not feeling well. And I kept saying in my head, I'm a black belt. Like, I'm a black belt kickboxer. Why can't I cope? And the girl next to me kept on saying, no, I don't need medication. I'm okay. I'm fine. And I kept buzzing saying, I need something. I need something for the pain. And they were like, oh, Orla, we've given you painkillers. You can't have any painkillers for 6 more hours. And I kept on. I was like sitting there wondering what is wrong with me that I can't cope with this pain, whereas the girl next to me is flying. And I got the shivers one night anyway. I think it was the night after he was born, and I called them again, and they were like, oh, it's just the hormones, it's just everything that you're dealing with, blah blah blah, you're fine. And I'm like, this is crazy. Like, is this what every single woman is dealing with after having a baby? And I was really struggling, and AJ was down in Neo, so I had to walk down to feed him, and I used to be like nearly in tears at the thoughts of going down to him, because it was 3 flights down and a big long walk. And then the following night, I think it was the second night, I woke up and I couldn't breathe. I literally was like caught for breath, and I pressed the emergency button again, and they took me seriously that time, and they said, hold your baby, we need to go fast. And they rushed me in the bed all the way down to the high dependency unit, and over the next couple of days they did a barrage of tests on me. They were convinced I had a clot somewhere, which I didn't. Then they were convinced that I had some kind of an infection, which ended up being I had a strep B infection, which led to cellulitis and ultimately to septicemia. But by the time they finally kind of heard me, it was at the septicemia level. And I laugh about it now because it sounds so dramatic, right? But in the middle of it, I was just relieved that they finally heard me, you know, that they finally kind of listened. I was like, oh, okay, so I am a black belt and there was something wrong, and I wasn't imagining that I was in extra pain.
Yeah.
And I spent 3 weeks in the hospital, and I suppose I was very lucky. And I remember one of the heads came from the hospital one day and said, you're right now, you're the sickest person in the hospital. And I laughed, and she said, why are you laughing? I said, because I feel fine. And she said, we nearly lost you. And because I suppose the second they started giving me the IV antibiotics, I started feeling better. And it was only when my second son was born that I realized how sick I actually was, because I was riding off this false energy, which kind of is part of my personality. I'm one of these go, and sometimes when I stop, I kind of flatline.
Sure.
So I was kind of feeling like that after he was
You're
born.
not the only one,
second
don't worry.
son was born, I always say I'm a recovering adrenaline junkie, but
That's
my adrenaline junkie is alive and kicking, right? So when my second son was born, and I realized how, I suppose the second birth was perfectly fine. It was really, really easy. When I say easy, it was a walk in the park compared to my first one. And then I suppose I started realizing how little awareness I had of my body when I had returned to exercise after all that had gone on. All I did was give myself an extra 3 weeks, because the GP had said, you were very sick, give yourself an extra couple of weeks. And it's not like I went hell for leather and went and ran a marathon. I still took it easy, but I took it easy without any body awareness whatsoever.
Yeah.
So after my second son was born, actually while he was pregnant, I had started my education in pre and postnatal fitness. I had done a 1-day course, which was barely scratched the surface, but it was a start, right? And when my second son was born, then I started kind of delving into it a little bit more. And in this room here, actually in my home gym, I started a home session for 3 of my friends for us all to do postnatal fitness together. So there was 3 of us, or 3 of them and me, and that was kind of how I started Fighting Fit Mama. And I suppose I learned through being able to teach them and myself how to take things slowly and how to return to exercise postnatally. And since then, I suppose, so that would have been about 2.5 years ago, I have been studying. I've done some really, really fantastic courses. I did Brianna Battle's Pregnancy and Postpartum Athleticism, which is all about the athlete mindset and working with the athlete and helping the athlete get back to their level of fitness, but helping them with their mindset instead of this push through mantra and you'll be fine and you're fitter than most, because I was fitter than most. But not most people have had that birth experience that I had. And there was no one to explain to me at the level that I wanted to get back. There was no one that explained it to me in a way that resonated with me. So athletes think differently. And it doesn't matter if you're an athlete on the Irish kickboxing team, or if you're an athlete that likes boot camps or likes a bit of CrossFit or likes doing running marathons. I mean, you're an athlete if you're a female and you're exercising at a relatively moderate to high intensity. So that female athlete mantra is not just for the elites, right? It's for anyone who wants to get back to a high enough level of athleticism, whatever their sport is. And I also did
sorry, cut across you, Orla. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I also trained with the Girls Gone Strong and with Anthony Lowe, who's a physio detective, all around the female athlete and the female body postnatally and during pregnancy, and how to train differently during these times.
Yeah, I suppose psychologically there's an element to it. I obviously haven't competed myself. I know the situation you get your brain into, and then when you kind of take a step back, getting back to that point, nobody kind of can fully understand that level you were at. And maybe when you're at your kind of weakest or your most vulnerable. And I suppose for you, you only had that mindset up to that period of time, and then it was new territory really. And as you said, you really didn't have anyone that you could talk to. Is that available now, though? Do you think that's are there helps? Are there places people can go to? You know, if they're going through, for let's say athletes who are going through, then they want to start families, and they've been at a very, very high level in terms of competing, and then suddenly, you know, they find themselves, you know, going through different changes in their physiques and hormones, and then obviously being first-time moms and things like that. Do you feel that there's something out there that you could have even tapped to back then you weren't aware of?
I suppose I wasn't aware. My entire athletic or my entire kickboxing career, I was always trained by men, and always, had that you'll be fine, you'll push through it, you'll recover faster. And while that's absolutely great, it's not necessarily always the case. And I'm assuming there are avenues out there for people, Olympians and stuff like that, who are coming down from a higher level again, and looking to have kids. And to me, I suppose, with the training that I've done, and the courses that I've done, it, like, mindset is the biggest part, because it's a very, very unknown territory, particularly in your first pregnancy, to go from being what you would consider a high level athlete to being pregnant and knowing how to, like, people say, listen to your body. But if it's your first time pregnant, if it's your first time being pregnant, you don't know what to listen out for. So you're just like, well, I feel fine. But like, it's learning how to hear your body and learning how to navigate that, and learning how to step back and take things a little bit slower if your body is feeling like it needs a rest, and not having to say, well, I'm an athlete, so I'm going to push through this because I know how to. You've got the mindset to push through it, but maybe your body just isn't quite up to that task at that moment in time. So it's a temporary shift in your focus, but when you make your training more intentional during that time, you do end up being stronger and better, and improving your recovery as a result. So it's a massive mindset shift. I think is probably my biggest take home, what I was missing first time round.
I think you're kind of bridging the gap as well, aren't you, between I suppose pregnancy and coming back to kind of full health and training and exercise, because obviously exercise is associated with aiding in the relief of depression, anxiety and stress. And I suppose it's postpartum depression and anxiety and all those, even psychosis. It's quite a serious thing that it's overlooked a little. Do you find that what you're doing with people is helping them, or have you got feedback from people?
Yeah, 100%. So when it comes to depression and postpartum depression and all that kind of stuff, I think in the last couple of years, again, that's come very much into the forefront, and people are very aware of there are areas and avenues that you can go through to talk about stuff. And I suppose me, in my own personal experience, I've always used exercise to kind of exercise as my therapy. And I definitely found that there were times where I, let's say, might have been struggling with feeding or lack of sleep or whatever, and that all I would want to do is go out for a run and and push through whatever I was feeling at the time. And I suppose, again, we're back to the mindset shift and how relying on exercise for your mental health in those very early few months can be quite a difficult area to navigate, because your mind might want a really fast run to get whatever is out of your head out of it, but your body might not be up to the capacity to deal with that run. So in my classes, I do a lot of intensity or intent now and intensity later. So we do really work on mindset and how, like even this morning, I had a girl who is 6 months postpartum, and she has been following the return to running guidelines that were published last year. So at the start of that, I think it was March last year, and there was a number of physios released the return to running guidelines, and she's been following the progression with the return to running guidelines. So there's strength and load tests, there's impact tests, and then there's a graded return to 5K, and it's a really comprehensive guideline. And we go through it in my class a lot. But she said this morning, she's 6 months postpartum now, and she's comparing it to her first birth, and she would have been symptomatic when she was running, experiencing with incontinence or pain or that kind of stuff. And this time around, she's further on in her journey, but she went slower to get there. So she's running now. She's back to 7.5K now. She's got the mindset. So she decided, after a training session we had last week, her quads were a little bit sore. And she was going out running the next day, and she decided, okay, so I wanted to actually run faster today and beat my time, but I'm going to run a little bit longer instead and let my legs recover a little bit. And
brilliant.
I was really delighted to hear that, because she made the decision herself, and I'm really loving the autonomy that she has on her own body. She's knowing she knows when to push through and she knows when to pull back, and she knows that when she pulls back and does something different, that she hasn't failed. She didn't fail in that 5-second clock beat that she wanted to do. She actually ended up running faster than she had planned, but went slower. And it's about having the mindset to be, and the mindset in yourself and the understanding in your body to say, okay, not today. We might do it next week, or we might do it tomorrow, but not today. And not today is fine, you know. So that's very important, and I was really happy to hear her say that.
Oh, that's amazing, yeah, and it's great that she's after get that. I mean, it's all about educating the client, really, rather than just kind of giving them tools. They actually need to use them themselves. And I think key is listening to your own body, because you're the expert of your own body at the end of the day. I can give you all the guidelines you want. You can give me all the guidelines. And at the end of the day, unless I listen, that's seriously powerful. How did you find COVID then? Not to be bogging down the conversation with the lockdown, or you know, but it is what it is, and I suppose we're still kind of immersing out of it. But did you find that there was a lot more contact from clients?
Well, I suppose the second I stopped my classes, it was a very tough decision for me at the time. I remember coming home and crying, saying, I think I need to stop my classes. I had a quiet class that particular night, and one of my clients was pregnant, and one of them was postpartum, because I do mixed classes, and everybody else had stayed away that night. And I thought to myself, and it was nothing to do about money, nothing in Fighting Fit Mama I do for money, because I have a full-time job. You know, this is a passion for me. And I sat there and I thought, okay, well, the girls that aren't coming are obviously afraid, and the girls that are coming, should I be afraid for them? So I made the decision. I made it probably a week before most people stopped, and I sent an email out to everyone, and I said, guys, I'm going to stop the classes. This just doesn't seem right for me, particularly the pregnant girls. There was no evidence documented to say that if a pregnant one of my pregnant moms got the COVID, that they would be okay. There was nothing there, so I went, okay, I'm going to have to stop this. And I straight away went into the online classes, because in my day job as tech, we use Zoom all the time, and it was an easy answer for me. Some of them stayed away, and some of them weren't comfortable coming on the camera, and a lot of them did come on the camera, and we've had some great fun. I've connected with people. Most of my clients are Cork, and I love the fact that my clients are Cork based, because I know when we come out of this and we go back to in-person classes, that I'll get to meet the people that I haven't physically met on camera, even though I know them quite well now, you know. And I do I connect with them quite well, I feel, in my classes. But I do have a couple of girls that are further afield. Like, if one girl coming in from London who I've never met, and she's come through her entire pregnancy with me, and it's really amazing to see that part of it as well. So it's definitely broadened my scope. And we've played with stuff. Stuff hasn't worked. Some stuff has worked. I had problems with my internet for a long time, and classes were dropping in and out, and it was it was causing a bit of stress. But my connection is fine now, which is great. But it's been a learning curve. I do remote coaching as well, so I have a group of girls on a remote coaching plan, so they're training on their own, and they train. I send them their programs, and we connect pretty much every day, really, or every evening. Mainly at the weekends, really, when I'm not working. But they're working through their program, and then we do like a quick 30-minute session then at the weekends together, to just connect again. That they know that I'm here, and they can ask questions, and they can field questions about their workouts and that kind of thing. So do a lot of habit-based work with them on getting their consistency up, and helping them train and exercise kind of in their own time.
Wow!
So it's been interesting.
Yeah. Come here. On top of all of this, then, I suppose the most important thing is what you do for yourself in terms of downtime. I know we have a tendency, and I do it myself, I can be guilty of it. I go back to exercise, go back to something physical, but what you do for kind of brain numbing, just sit there and just disengage from the world? What have you something you do, or?
Well, I do CrossFit. I do train in CrossFit. Back to exercise. So what do I do without exercise?
Without exercise, okay, so you're not allowed to exercise. So what do you do for yourself?
I take my dog for a walk sometimes.
Okay.
I do. But when I think about downtime for myself, I suppose I do watch. I watch Netflix. I like getting into a good old binge of Netflix
Good,
from
yeah.
time to time. I'm watching the Good Fight at the moment. It's a spin off from The Good Wife. And I really like that. So I find I'll go through a binge of watching a good bit of Netflix, and then I won't watch TV again for a while. So I think it's probably been about 2 months since I've watched TV now. I just don't get to it.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the same in your house, but since the whole lockdown and COVID, my kids don't go to sleep at a regular time at all. They're awake still at 9:30, 10 o'clock, and I'm in bed at 10:30. So there's no real downtime
I know.
as such.
I
But
know. Yeah. No.
when
We
Pat comes
tried
home from
to
work, I do.
at the start. I tried to keep a structure from the word go. Literally got them into a structure. Because I knew in my own heart and soul there's a long road here, and if I didn't, we were in trouble. But no, I've been lucky, and I'm lucky where we're living. But I just made sure. But I hear you loud and clear.
Yeah.
And we have a tendency as athletes to keep going the whole physical route and never actually taking time to recover and rest. And we sometimes don't listen to the advice we give our clients too, and going back to
Very
that
true.
lady you were talking about, you said, at least she's now listening to her own body. She didn't go the extra mile. She didn't try and run faster. She just took her time. She listened to do it. And I'm deadly for it. So sometimes I have to just stop and be a little bit selfish. But in terms of family then, I suppose, fitting it all in, how does Orla manage to fit everything in between work, as you said, Zoom calls, the normal day job, the postpartum, fit mama, or fighting mama, sorry. Fit mama might be another one, actually. Fighting fit mama, and all these, you've a lot going on, really.
Yeah.
How do you manage your time?
I suppose I like being busy. Busyness is something that is just part of who I am. I do, I suppose I try when I'm with the kids to be present, to leave the phone down. It doesn't always happen. I'm not going to say that I'm perfectly 100% do that. But I do. I suppose I catch up on my paperwork and my doing my programs and doing that kind of stuff at the weekends. I get a couple of hours here and there to work on that. So I take Fridays off as well. I get Fridays at the moment is parental leave, so I'm off on Fridays, and Fridays are my favorite day of the week because we get, and especially since COVID and since the whole lockdown, we just literally we take off on our adventures, myself and the two boys, while Pat's at work, and we go for long walks, or we'll have a picnic by the river, or we'll go on the bikes. They love their little BMXs, and Fridays are my day for them, and I've really kind of enjoyed that time with them, particularly since lockdown, because there's less noise. I don't have to think about taking them to an indoor play area or entertain them in any way that's costly or anything like that. Again, it's nothing about the money. It was about going back to simple things. Let's go for a walk on the bike, lads, and they love just flying on they've got the bikes, without the pedals.
Yeah.
And they and it's been great. And then on Friday evenings when Pat comes home, we have a nice dinner. If it's nice, we'll sit outside. We have a mobile home as well in East Cork, so we're looking forward to the end of July when we can go back there. And I'm taking August off my day job, so I'm going to be down there for a little bit of time, and just to chill out and spend some time with the boys. And I'm lucky in the sense that Pat's here in the evening, so he helps with bedtime if I'm doing a class. No, I'm not doing classes every night of the week. I'm doing classes on a Wednesday night and a Saturday morning. So, it is quite balanced. It sounds crazy, but it is quite balanced,
Yeah. No, when you put it like that, it's great. There seems to be a nice balance. And obviously the boys are big into the activity as well. I'd say they're taking after their mom.
Yeah, so before the lockdown, I teach a kids kickboxing class on a Tuesday night, and I bring them with me, and in the hope that they'll eventually decide to do it, but they just run around like crazy lunatics because Pat says they have my energy, which unfortunately is probably true. So he comes and collects them then early from class and takes them away so that I can concentrate on actually working with the kids that are training. So So yeah, it is a balance at times, and some days it's effortless. And yesterday was an effortless day. Like, they were so good, the boys were so good, and then other days they're tearing the hair out. So I ended up in A&E at the start of COVID because my 2-year-old decided to drink washing up liquid.
Nice.
And that happened on a Friday when they had my full attention. So they're just mental.
Yeah, you can't predict it, unfortunately. It's non-negotiable when they arrive into a room on top of you. If you were to pick 3 people, I suppose, it can be more, but if you were to pick 3 people who are the most influential in your life, who would they be?
Most influential in what way?
In your life in general. It could be towards work, it could be towards your martial arts, it could be health, it could be anything at all.
It's a very tough question. I suppose everybody says Katie Taylor. I think Katie Taylor, in terms of female athletes in a combative sport, I think she's amazing. I think just the way she presents herself and the way she dedicates her life to her sport is fantastic. I think Pat is like, we're like yin and yang. We are so different. He is the calm. He's a businessman. He's an auctioneer, and he started his auctioneering business right in the middle of the recession in 2008, and he's still going, through everything that we're dealing with right now. And his business mindset and his calmness and all that, I think, is very inspirational to me. And he says I don't listen to him, but I do listen to him quite a lot when it comes to for business, especially for my Fighting Fit Mama stuff. And in terms of someone else inspirational, God, there's loads. There's so many names running around my head right now. I guess my kickboxing coach. I've multiple kickboxing coaches. My main coach is Colin O'Shaughnessy. My light contact coach nationally would have been Ian Kingston, and my full contact coach would have been Jimmy Upton. And the 3 of them, and the way that they helped me be the kickboxer that I was, and helped me develop as a person, because they always say who you are because of what you went through to get here. And they would have helped me through my kickboxing and helped me kind of deliver that passion through, I suppose, the hardship that I had, and become what I was because of it. So I'm going to say the 3 of them all in one go.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I suppose there's no real limit in the number of people who are influential in your life, but I suppose it's just, it's nice to kind of, to acknowledge that in our own minds, really, isn't it? I know you're. Some people are looking at this will say, "Wow, this lady's absolutely phenomenal, incredible. What an attitude! She's a serious high performer. Got that whole grit. She's just that serious drive, motivation." But I suppose if you were to have a superpower, what kind of a superpower would it be? I always ask people this.
I was to have a superpower. I think I'd have to say to be able to fly, because then I could get to places faster and do more.
Brilliant. Oh, I was asked that last week, and the same thing I answered. I think I'd have to fly to just to get to places faster.
Really?
Oh, that's unbelievable.
That's the adrenaline junkie coming back again now. You see, get more out of my day.
Yeah. Get more done. Yeah. So I think sometimes we have to slow down to speed up too, I think that's
100%.
Yeah. I think sometimes we have a tendency to run ahead of things. Orla, it's been amazing talking to you. Such an inspiration and such an athlete and an incredible person all around. People to get in contact with you, where can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, so I always say I'm Orla, aka Fighting Fit Mama. So you'll find me on Instagram, fighting_fit_mama, MOMA. I'm also on Instagram or on Facebook, Fighting Fit Mama, just all one word. And it's fightingfitmama@gmail.com. So yeah, if anyone is looking to get in touch, you can get.
And a website? Have you a website?
Oh, the website as well is fightingfitmama.com. Yeah.
Fightingfitmama.com. Listen, Orla, it's been amazing talking to you, and I'm sure people are going to get an awful lot out of this. And I'm assuming you're going to have a lot of business as well from it. So, look, it's been amazing. Thanks a million, Orla. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on, Jason. Thanks very much.